Many fans here in this
Hello and welcome back to coverage of the PDGA Euro Tour. We are here at the 2023 Åland Open on the Finnish archipelagos in the Baltic Sea. We have an incredible course with a technical front nine and a lot of big bombers on the back nine. We are excited to be bringing you round 2 front nine MPO lead card coverage, brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood, and once again with me, Elias Luukkonen.
Thank you, Connor. What is up? And what is up, viewers? Let's take a look at who we got on the card today. Hjalte Jensen with an absolute heater of round 1, going 10 under in the first round. He's the Danish champion from this year, crowned only about 3 or 4 weeks ago, so he's playing hot right now.
Joining him, legend of the sport, Scott Stokely, currently on his world tour. It has brought him here to the Åland Islands, and he has performed incredibly, making his way onto this lead card against a stacked field. Incredible to see his longevity at the top of the game.
And then, of course, the highest rated player in the tournament, Eagle McMahon. Even while battling a bit of a shoulder injury, not being able to throw many forehands, still able to play on a high level with his both backhand and putting skills.
And rounding out our lead card, young Finnish superstar Miro Ryhänen. Elias, what do we know about Miro?
Miro is one of the most mentally talented players. He's got a very strong head and just a solid backhand player mostly. Has some good touch forehands too, and insanely good putter.
We get started here on hole 1, a 75-meter par 3 with an early high floor and an initial gap to hit. As you break out into this fairway, you see it slope softly from right to left with OB lining the left side, only really coming into play if you come in with a lot of heat on the hyzer angle or hit off a tree. A lot of players will be looking to throw more of a straight shot than anything fading left, and letting the natural grade of the hill filter them down to this slightly elevated basket. It's a great way to start the round and a very attackable hole.
Disc import and Mobic disc golfing. Let's welcome to the tee from Denmark, Hjalte Jensen.
And Hjalte, definitely a very high ceiling player. He's got huge backhand, pretty big forehand as well, and his putting, especially from circle 2, is some of the best in Europe.
Hjalte off the tee, pushing the left side fairway with a slightly turning shot, but catching that last gatekeeper to the green. Will be left in circle 2.
States, sponsored by Kastaplast, Alle Disc Golf Center, Scott Stokely online disc golf class at scottstokely.net. Let me present to you Mr. Scott Stokely.
Scott there with a long list of sponsors and also a long list of supporters on the course. He's a very well-liked player and for good reason, always smiling on the course, no matter how he's playing. Going with the unconventional forehand on the first hole. And he has thrown it well. He's inside the circle there with just a straight, perfectly straight shot.
McMahon.
Eagle now on the tee. Has had some great hot starts to the front nine. His shot shaping abilities and slightly unconventional shot shaping choice, especially with a lot of high grenade releases. He's had some great success here on this course, landing him at 9 under, tied for second coming into round 2.
Eagle here with that touchy putter shot. And he's ace running this thing. Look at that. He's gone past the basket, stays in bounds though, not challenging that left side OB. Gonna have a tricky but makeable putt from there.
We get to see Miro here now off the tee. A nice late turning flight to ensure he doesn't go too far left, and early with a very nice ground play sliding just long of the basket. He'll be looking back at it from about 7 or so meters with an open putt. We have Hjalte up first on the green. We mentioned his C2 prowess, Elias, and just a little bit low to start his round there.
You can see that smooth, powerful stroke though. As Scott makes a great putt from edge of circle 1 there. He's also got a bit of an unconventional style, both on the drives and especially in the putting. He's going very quickly most of the time. And Miro as well. What a great putt. Starting on hole 1.
Eagle looking to find his early birdie. And he catches the bottom left side and sticks that one. Only Hjalte here taking the 3 as the rest of the card catches up to him at 10 under. Just like that, things are equalized, moving to hole 2 of round 2. Exciting action. Here you see hole 2, a 105-meter par 3 with a very specific right-to-left shape, an incredibly difficult hole to get into the circle on off the tee. A lot of players will be opting for an overstable disc thrown backhand through this gap and then relying on that overstable finish to get some ground play and skip their way up to the green. There are slightly less conventional lines such as forehand turnover rollers or long anhyzer air shots with the forehand, but a lot of players will be content with a circle 2 look or even just playing for 3 here. But Scott, known to be playing an aggressive line on hole 2.
And Scott was actually in round 1, he was inside the circle with this forehand roller. Looks like he's got it inside. Doesn't quite turn it over as much as he would like. You need to really turn it over early with the forehand roller. And with any other shot, if you're throwing the hyzer, you need to move left early and hard.
Eagle shaping the more traditional line, but you see a lot of players will opt to go for a high-speed overstable driver to ensure the ground play, but it's then very difficult to prevent the disc from moving forwards not too quickly and getting left as early as the fairway requires. We see Eagle shoot very straight and long into the rough there. Quite a common result for a slightly misfired hyzer. It can't be too fast out of the hand and more rotations than an actual forwards pushing shot. Miro there getting that first gap, but also settling about 40 or 50 from the pin.
You can see Miro doesn't have a logo on his shirt. So far he's actually unsponsored, so I believe many sponsors probably might be looking for him for next year to have on the team. And Hjalte here going with the very overstable disc. That might have been a Discmania splice, at least judging by the flight. And he's also not within the circle, but definitely in long putting range.
Scott here also pushed a little bit long. Just an anhyzer jump putt for him. And a stress-free 3. The entrance to the green is good from the right side fairway, but from left side can be quite pinched. I believe this is Eagle playing a forehand roller to get out of the rough. A great touch there to put himself at just outside bullseye.
Yeah, well done there. Really good touch. Let's see if Hjalte can make this. Wow, what a great C2 putt. That was almost, I believe, on the outer edge of circle 2. Doesn't even jump. You saw on hole 1, he usually goes for that small hop on those long C2 putts.
So we see the replay here. A great height, tons of spin on that putt. From the straddle and cashes the very rare birdie on hole 2. Hjalte Jensen regaining his early lead by 1 stroke.
That is a birdie that will gain you a lot of strokes on the field. As we see everybody else tapping in for their easy pars. Very common result on this hole. Most people are hitting the fairway somewhat okay, but not quite getting to the circle.
All of them matching the pace, 1 birdie through the first 2 holes. Here you see the tee of hole 3, a 140 meter uphill par 4. You have this initial high floor forcing a nose-up release angle. As you then enter this tunnel, you need to avoid the trees on the left and the right to punch through into this open fairway where it then begins to turn left quite sharply, almost 90 degrees. You have 2 fairways to choose between, the traditional one on the left with the mulch or more up on the right. You can often find some good footing on the left, although it's harder to hit the entrance. You can blast a hyzer into the hill on the right and opt to have less ideal footing for your approach shot, but a wider gap, and you then get your second shot into this green that has quite a lot of danger. The rocks and the slope can contribute to significant rollaways if you're not careful. A lot of thoughtful shots required to position yourself for birdie. Really 2 placement shots, not a lot of distance required.
Agreed. I feel like a lot of players here, as Hjalte is doing as well, just trying to go kind of for a hyzer, hopefully either fight through the trees or get over them. And you can see Hjalte there a little bit inside, but gets a pretty good kick to the middle of the first fairway. And he's actually going to have a pretty simple approach from there compared to a lot of approaches that are to be had on this hole.
Scott going a high and wide forehand and hyzer, catching a fade a little bit too early. He'll be up on the hillside, pinched from the mouth of the tunnel. Although looks to have enough distance, he may opt to go over the top. We see, speaking of over the top, Eagle eyeing the high hyzer as he gets just over those mid-fairway trees and slips into that second rightwards tunnel to access the green. He'll have a look, although it may be an awkward backhand.
That's a position where Eagle would most definitely want to have access to that forehand of his, since pretty much both of the approaches favor a forehand over the backhand. And Miro here, pulling it to the right. He was going for the left side gap. You have those 2 gaps to choose from the tee. And he missed it, completely hit some of the middle trees. And from here on out, it's pretty much no chance for the birdie. Just has to pitch up over the trees and hopefully get down the fairway to a par position.
As he spikes his hyzer down, unclear whether or not he's entered the fairway, although it is quite a friendly line if you're pinched off early to go over the top. We see Scott here contending with really tricky footing and a very impeded stroke for the forehand. He's trying to go high hyzer to ensure he fades right towards the green. And he is still playing with fire in this heavily wooded tunnel.
And look at this Eagle, once again going for the grenade that you already mentioned on hole 1. Big advantage if you have this shot on this course, as you can just take completely out of the play all the trees, and look at that result. Pretty fortunate to even stick there with the grenade. You see a lot of rollaways on this green, especially going with that spiky angle.
Hjalte shaping a nice anhyzer release with a stable disc down the tunnel. I like the use of height and nose angle to prevent it from fading out left with the slope. A good, accurate entrance to the green for Hjalte, and Miro continuing to scramble. A little patent pending anhyzer backhand for him, putting him right up there in the green at play as well. We see what Scott got here from the forehand hyzer. Actually has a look at birdie and says, "I'll be taking par, thank you very much."
Very tough angle to run the putt. If you're missing to the left or airballing the putt from there, you're likely to be rolling down. As Eagle, pretty much just a tap-in for the birdie 3. That is kind of the start you want. You know, hole 1 and hole 3 are both very birdieable, and holes that you would like to pick up, and compared to hole 2, which is one of the more difficult birdies on the course. And as we can see, Hjalte also getting that birdie and the 2-under start.
Absolutely. Both holes 1 and 3 averaging below par, with hole 2 averaging 3.34 as a par 3. This hole sneaking in at 3.96, just below par 4. Our players will move now to hole 4. A 77-meter par 3, although steeply uphill, plays much closer to about 105 or 110 meters. Players will need to push up this hill down a tight tunnel the entire way and have a soft ending to the left if you really want to get it parked, although the straight shot is really all that's necessary. What's important here is controlling your hyzer and nose angles to try and match the grade of the hill and ensure that you turn up to straight and not hyzer out early. Very attackable hole, oftentimes an understable fairway or mid-range.
It really depends on the preference of the player, whether they want to throw hard with a mid-range or soft with a fairway. It looks like Hjalte is going hard with an overstable mid-range. I believe that was an MD5. And you can see he's gone even long off the basket.
We'll see Eagle now. Also with quite an overstable disc, looking to play to the right side and have it swing left. He kicks rightwards off the fairway early, and that will be a par at best situation for Eagle. A lot of work left. Scott with once again a very unorthodox choice to go to the forehand, but a great reward off the tree kick there, as he kicks just to about 5 or 6 from the basket. Scott will be looking at a birdie to put him to 11 under.
Just showing off that great angle control he's got with the forehand. And Miro here also pulling it right. I believe him and Eagle both hitting the same tree on the right side. Not really what you want to do on this hole. It's once again one of the easier holes we play.
And it's not a huge gap off the tee. Quite common that at least 1 or 2 players from a card don't quite hit the initial tunnel. Eagle here once again opting to go over the top, battling the altitude of this hill. He crosses through the fairway and just drops it by the green. As you mentioned, Elias, just a great tool to have on a lot of these holes with younger, smaller trees.
Yeah, pretty much the majority of the front 9 having some of the not the tallest of trees, and I believe Eagle can almost reach the top of the trees on any hole. As we saw Miro not quite having the same opportunity, possibly having a worse angle, having to go with that forehand anhyzer. And this is a very difficult putt for the par.
Just a little bit shy, low and left. You saw the ceiling he had to contend with. This is Hjalte, who fired just past the green with his tee shot. And a confident bid, but into the band. A little bit too much speed and some frustration shown from him on that birdie opportunity. Passed by. This is Scott for his birdie. Pretty fast on the green and easy work for him.
Scott really has that routine where he is standing kind of, behind the disc for a couple of seconds, then he walks up to the disc and just throws it. So really a routine oriented player, even though in a different way compared to a lot of players. As we saw, Eagle tapping in for the par and Miro for the bogey. First red number on our card today, and hopefully not too many of those to be had, as this is one of the easier courses we play on tour.
No doubt, very attackable, including here hole 5, a 160-meter uphill par 4. Players will want to throw a straight to rightwards finishing shot. The turnover backhand is possible, as well as the forehand hyzer, and hopefully land yourself in a placement right about here or longer. That allows you entrance into the green with a forehand or potentially spike hyzer over the trees on the right side, where you have it tucked away into this slightly sloping green. This is another hole that just requires 2 smart placement shots into the fairway and no huge distance to birdie, an attackable one for sure.
Fairway shape really sets up for a huge backhand anhyzer, but really all you need on this hole is about 100 or 110 meters, as Scott is probably going to show us with the forehand. His forehand is perfectly shaped for this hole. He's got that hyzer release and flips it up to flat. And this is looking very good. What a shot from Scott. That is pretty far as well with the forehand. It's hard to get that far up the hill with the forehand.
Absolutely. Had a great height and power there. We'll leave him about 70 or so into the green. Hjalte playing the wide spike hyzer. I think one of the few players to opt for that, and you see why. He gets caught up on the right side. It is very dense over there, but Eagle now also looking to shape something aggressive.
And he's going high, I believe, with a very understable disc, trying to shape it down the fairway. And he has gone all the way to the trees next to the basket. Wow, how's that even possible? I believe he must be in circle 2 there. And look at the follow flight here.
As he matches the fairway with the late turning nose-up flight and pushes it in incredible speed and really utilizing his power to separate himself from a lot of players who quite simply cannot throw that shot. An extremely aggressive angle that looks to have paid off for him. And Miro with the much more traditional turnover line and a great placement in stark contrast to Eagle's power turnover way high in the sky. Incredible.
Yeah, Miro's good shot not really looking that good after the Eagle's incredible one. And you can see Hjalte here being pinched on the right side, having to go under the branches, but trying to still reach the basket with a huge anhyzer. He has faded out towards hole 6's fairway though, and that will be a difficult par. On a hole that you would not really like to bogey.
No, absolutely. We see Miro here looking to shape the forehand now. It's quite a immediate turn to the right to access the basket closely, and a great touch from him there. Here on hole 5, 36% of the MPO field able to secure that birdie. Playing at 3.85, definitely one that players want to pick up at that champion level pace.
And Scott here with just a simple forehand approach. He has to go over, or not over, but around the trees with that high forehand, and he has almost run it to the basket. That's something you can kind of do with a forehand approach on this hole, as the hill is sloping slightly right to left, and it's almost impossible to get too far right with the approach.
Hjalte with some narrow gaps and a low ceiling to fight now on his way to the green, looking like he still wanted to put that in. A very aggressive line leaves him at about 7 or 8 meters, although putting laterally across the hill. This is Eagle for Eagle 2 on hole 5, and he catches a branch, but that is an incredible spot to be off the tee. This hole plays, I know it says 160, but uphill par 4 plays like 200. And Hjalte puts that one in nicely for his par save after scrambling. Eagle for the comeback birdie putt.
Still a very nice birdie. Although I'm sure he would have loved to have that eagle. That would have definitely been one of the highlights of the tournament. I don't think many players even think that there's a chance of reaching this hole. An eagle probably might even be one of the only players in the field that have that chance.
And as we see some short putts there, Scott securing his birdie with the forehand, as well as Miro with the backhand-forehand combo. Some great threes for them. We move to hole 6. Quite a stark contrast to hole 5, despite having a same par and a similar shape, you see at 223 meters. Initially a straight shot to rightwards moving as you battle up the hill. You really want to position yourself right about here with either a forehand hyzer or turnover backhand. This leaves you with a straight shot with another rightwards ending finish, as you have a very dangerous green, a basket perched atop a rock with a drop off directly behind it. This is one of the most difficult holes on the course, averaging well over par, even on day 2, where the course played on average roughly 3 strokes better than day 1. Now that the players have some experience, still a very demanding hole.
Yeah, I believe the main difference between day 1 and 2 was the wind. There was almost no wind in this day 2. And even though you see some of the rainy clouds coming over the players right now, the rain is, for scoring, definitely better than the wind. And as we see Scott throwing a pretty good looking forehand, just barely missing it to the left, and he's gonna have to scramble for the par here. And I believe this is another hole where Eagle is gonna have a big advantage with his distance. He can go for a huge shot off the tee if he wants to, and possibly have a very short approach.
We see the full extended reach back and the power snap of Eagle McMahon, and he has boomed his way up the fairway with a soft turnover into a full flex flight. He has a great progress up the fairway and a short distance remaining, relatively, compared to most good lies. We see Miro now playing with the angles a little bit more, keeps this turned over, looks to find some fade back to the fairway, but just a little bit early on the right, and you are quite punished from the right side there. Not really many available angles to go too far up, maybe even having to pitch out a little bit.
Yeah, it's certainly way better to go too far straight or too far left than going too far right, as Hjalte gets a pretty fortunate kick out of the woods. He's still likely gonna have a very small chance for the birdie, if any. And yes, is Scott here going for one of his signature shots. He's going for the thumber. And he actually throws that shot very well, and very often he might even use it for some regular shapes.
Hjalte here looking to shape the long Anheuser flight with the backhand, pushing the left side tree line and fading out. He will have a long look at a very dangerous basket. We'll see how aggressive he chooses to get. I think knowing that he's tied for first currently at 12 under alongside Scott and Eagle will be an easy decision to lay up, although maybe perhaps conceding a stroke to Eagle, who's way up there. Scott likely playing for par as well now off the initial tree kick. This is Miro looking to shape his way out of the woods, and you can see just how much jail he is in. Incredibly difficult to navigate your way out of this early right side.
He's gonna have to go with a high turnover with some late fade if he wants to get to the basket. But he's getting the fade way too early here. And still gonna have a short yet pretty tricky approach as the green is sloping directly behind where he's throwing from.
Scott now to the left side fairway. Has progressed about 2/3 of the way up. And being on that left side, it opens up the Spikeheiser angle over the rough on the right. He gets that one into the green with a lot of heat as that spins out. Spiking in his felon makes a lot of sense there.
And Eagle here. Look at the massive drive. He only has about 75 or 80 meters left to go. Able to go with a standstill Spikeheiser, and wow. He has made this hole look pretty easy, even though it's most definitely not exactly easy. And Miro here, he needs some extreme touch on this one. Looks like he's got it. Very good speed control there.
And whether or not intentional, by playing slightly over that hill, he will be looking back up the hill, putting towards land. Whereas, for example, Hjalte here putting towards the drop-off, and you see him lay that up and actually roll down to the bottom. As he throws his hands up in disbelief, went for the safe play and did not stick the layup. Scott as well with the death putt. You see him throw his hands up. Very dangerous, but Hjalte still manageable here.
And of course he gets it. That's a good putt there and good confidence boost after an unforced error. You know, Hjalte's layup really wasn't great. He put it too close to the basket, risking that roll away. But able to fix the error there with a good putt. And Scott with the same thing. Actually a putt for the bogey. So he's gonna have the second bogey of the group so far.
Miro there. Top right side chains, catching it nicely. Delivered with a lot of speed. But going back up that hill. Able to give it a confident chance. And Eagle now with an effortless looking 3. On one of the longest and most difficult of the front 9 holes. Very nicely done and a great way to navigate a tricky uphill par 4. Hole 7, a 108-meter par 3, once again with an initial high floor, sort of encouraging a nose-up release angle. You see the fairway go straight and then bend softly to the right, where the basket is perched. A few trees here to really block out anything that fires a little bit to the left. It shapes very nicely for the turnover backhand that flattens out at the end. It's also possible to push a long forehand hyzer up, although it narrows the width of the fairway greatly. Backhand shaping it most naturally. We have eagle up first.
Big advantage here for eagle, once again, for being able to go with the mid-range, as the mid-range shape is, I believe, the perfect shape for this hole. But he has turned it too far to the right. Still gonna have a putt though, and you can see Miro here, for example, going with a fairway driver compared to that mid-range. He's gonna get some late fade on this, and what a great kick off the tree, and he's parked. Look at that, he was about to fade out a little bit, probably gonna be on the edge of the circle, but now he's absolutely parked.
Take what you can get here. Hjalte playing a similar turnover line, starting with a little bit more width and some more understability. He pushes the left side trees and will sit at about circle's edge, although an open look there. Scott opting for the forehand hyzer. He has to keep this very inside and not push it too far straight. You see he's done just that, but then fading out with the skip to the right. That is about as good as you can throw a forehand, and he's still about circle's edge.
Yeah, and that's kind of... I was talking with Scott on this hole, and that's what he was going for. As we see Hjalte, very good looking stroke there, just missing it low. But yeah, Scott is actually playing for that 10-meter range, just to get to the edge of the circle. Let's see if eagle can get this.
Just a beautiful delivery, just silky smooth from Eagle McMahon, putting together 3 in a row on 5, 6, and 7 now. Beginning to separate a little bit from the field with this hot start. 5 down through the front 7. Scott, you mentioned, plays to this position and unable to translate that, finds the band. But you know that speaks great volumes about his confidence in circle 1 from that 10-meter range.
Whoa. Did I just see that? Miro going from the edge of the bullseye. Just a regular looking stroke. That wasn't even particularly hard, and he has come out from the middle. Wow, what a super unfortunate break, especially since Miro is not having the best start to the round. As we see everybody else on the card at least 1 or more strokes better than him throughout these first 7 holes.
Absolutely, and we move on to hole 8, a par 3 71-meter hole. You have, as the drone flies, a traditional looking tunnel shot, a right to left soft flex really shapes most naturally. You can also play the hyzer flip with the putter or mid-range. The low ceiling, some players will opt to disc up, but there are other options to play this hole as well, with either a grenade over the top, the spike hyzer forehand, or spike hyzer backhand if you choose to not play with that tunnel. Really a shooter's choice here, and a short, attackable hole. On 8, we see eagle shaping the grenade, I believe, Elias, once again.
Yep, once again, and this is a very good grenade hole. Just need to get the angle right and get it over the trees. And looks like eagle has done both of those things, just 5 meters away there. The gap on this hole is not very tight, but the ceiling is surprisingly low, especially at the end of the fairway. Miro here going through the left side. He's gonna have a long putt from there to hopefully start getting some more birdies.
And intermittent showers throughout the day. The weather quite quickly changing. We see Hjalte going up into the sky as well, hoping to have this spike down into the green, and he is just a little bit to the left side at about circle's edge. We have Scott up first. As we hear the rains begin to pour, he gives it a healthy chance, but not quite enough to find the chains. This is the part of the round now where the weather begins to get more and more severe, testing players' nerves and composure as well as preparation. Miro clearly prepared with a great putt from just outside the circle. Good bounce back after the last hole.
Yep, as we said, one of the most mentally strong players you can find on the course, just completely unfazed by the spit out. Hjalte here from 10 meters. Tough straddle putt, but he's comfortable with the straddles usually, and he's once again good putt there, going 3 under through the first 8. I think for these players the front 9 is actually the more difficult of the 2 9s, even though the holes are shorter on the front 9. But with these guys and their big distance, the open and longer back 9 holes are probably the stretch they want to score on mostly.
Eagle has a great use of the high shots, allowing him to shortcut a lot of these holes, and rather than navigating through the tunnel shots, play over them. And you see that net him another birdie, his 4th in a row on hole 8, still maintaining a 2-stroke lead over Hjalte going into hole 9.
And it's going to be interesting to see how these guys manage the rain. Usually for the players of this caliber, the rain is not that much of a problem, especially since throughout this rain the wind was actually kind of down. It wasn't particularly windy when it was raining today, and especially after the rain it was dead calm. So the conditions other than the rain are actually very good for scoring right now.
And even a lightning delay occurring earlier on in the round of day 2. The round starting approximately 70 minutes later than originally scheduled. As we play into the afternoon, hole 9 here, a 79-meter par 3 island hole. Quite a generous island, I think. Its width at the biggest part about 15 meters, closer to 12 at most parts of the island. You have a very big green that you want to stick and make your putt. For a lot of players, you'll play the straight shot. The spike hyzer is available, as well as the forehand lower hyzer. This is a pick your disc, nice and slow speed, hit the island.
And talking about spike hyzer, Eagle once again going for that shot, and he has gone way long. Looks like he went a little bit quicker than normal because of the rain, and it has cost him at least 1 stroke, possibly 2, unless he can make it from the drop zone. And we see Miro here going for the unconventional forehand shot, which he throws to perfection there. Well done.
You mentioned Miro being a backhand dominant player. Great to see his touch. Hjalte, another backhand dominant player, bringing the forehand into play, and a series of huge skips finds him out of bounds. A really nasty result there, hitting the island quite early on. 2 or 3 big skips. Scott pulls his disc dry out from underneath his jacket, plays the forehand turnover.
Yeah, that's another signature shot of Scott, going with the Kastaplast Bari. A beat-in one that's very understable. He has great distance control with it. Let's see if Eagle can make it from the drop zone. Wow! What a huge putt in the rain from about 17 meters away. That is a crucial moment in the round. This is one of the easier holes on the course that you definitely do not want to bogey. And looks like Eagle agrees.
That's to remain bogey free. This putt is about 20 meters from the drop zone roughly. Just at circle 2's edge, we see Hjalte with a good bid, but fading a touch early. Incredible move by Eagle McMahon there. Only a few other players able to put it in from the drop zone on the day. Scott just off the bend. Again, just shy of the chains.
And Hjalte here, just a quick cleanup. That was not a quick cleanup there. That was a very quick missed putt instead. And that's a frustrating miss. Now he's gonna have a similar distance putt for the double, which he gets in this time. Looks like Hjalte just went super quick to avoid the rain and pays a big price there. Double bogey on this hole must be pretty rare. Probably not many players in the field even getting a double bogey on this hole.
No, absolutely not. We even see Miro there going for the umbrella on putt. A great tool if you have it. On hole 9, we had very few double bogeys, less than 10% of the field. Very polarizing hole, often offering you a 2 or a 4. The 3s and 5s are less common. And as we close out the front 9, we take a look at the standings. Eagle, 15 under total in the solo lead position, but Niklas Antila with an 8 under front 9 has worked his way into second place. Tied in third, Elias Lukanen, heyo, Oyvind Jarns at a 13 under. Tied in fifth, Miro, Matt Bell, Clay Edwards. An exciting battle as we have reached the halfway point of the tournament.
Yeah, and I think good to note on this top 10 list, many of the players with the hottest front 9s were actually playing with less rain, and the rain hadn't even started when they were playing the front 9. So keep that in mind. And thank you guys for watching the front 9. Hope to see you on the back 9. Support us either by clicking the like button, the subscribe button, or even support MDG on Patreon. Working super hard. Thank you from me and Connor, and hope to see you guys on the back 9.